Welcome into the archives, where we dive into games long forgotten in our Steam libraries to find gems hidden within. This is the fourth game in Bard's Tale. See here if you want to see my review on Bard's Tale Trilogy. So, grab your mugs, string your lutes, and wet your whistles, as we now enter the last game of A Bard's Tale. Until they decide they want more. So gather around the fire once more, and let me tell you a tale of Bard's Tale 4. First off, Bard's Tale 4 is a big upgrade from the classics, but still feeling like Bard's Tale. The story takes place many years after the first three games. Adventurers and non-human folk are being targeted for being evil according to the new order of Scarabray, Papa Swords. It is up to Melody, or your original character here, to find the truth and save the world. Probably. Again. However, unlike the trilogy, you're not just dropped right in quite yet. You get to see new Scarabray, see how things have changed, and slowly you get introduced to new characters that will help you along the way. So the start of the game is a built-in tutorial, as the story is very much on thick railroad tracks. If the game doesn't want you exploring somewhere at any time, it will put some beefy boys in your path. If the area needs to be blocked off because you're not supposed to see it, it may have some random stuff sitting there. As you meet new characters throughout the story and the tutorial, you also learn about the 4 different classes as they join your party, which then lets you decide how you level them up and strengthen your team. Unlike the trilogy where you gotta go create your entire party from scratch all at once, you can still create party members like last time. However, they cost a special resource that you get from completing the main questline. These special mercenary coins are used to create custom party members and reset skills. However, as I said, you will be meeting quite a few NPCs that will involve the 4 basic classes with different setups as you adventure. So I recommend saving these tokens at the start and only use them when you really need to fill a gap in the party if you're struggling at a part. As newly created party members scale up to your party's general level, thank God, and any member that is put on the back burner does as well. The biggest thing that makes this guy stand out is the music. Soon as you enter the main menu, you get a bard song.
A summer's day in Scarabray became a wintry night. Foes from below, blood on the snow, bright crimson on white.
And you get to meet the guy who sings it at the very start. The trilogy had a fun little mechanic where your bard would play a passive song to boost the party. The song would also control the in-game music that would be playing. However, this 4th entry decided, nah, that is whack. Let's make this truly a Bard's Tale, with people singing all over the place. Secret songs you play for adventurers to recognize other adventurers.
Music to my ears. Look, AHAHHA, a friend.
And music having the power to interact with the game world. As you progress, you learn little songs to help you find secrets and use them to your advantage. Honestly, gameplay-wise, it's a small thing, but damn, I found myself so happy to see the game evolve in this direction. Now, I had a big issue in the first game, where when you leveled up, you got a small stat boost, and certain milestone levels gave a little more something extra for the individual class. Well, I'm happy to say, not anymore, as now all classes have various skills and skill trees to invest in, which most break down to an attack tree, a defense tree, a speciality tree, and a crafting tree. Sometimes having a 5th tree for certain mechanics to level up. These trees also have a quote-unquote classes within these skill trees, which act as level up milestones to give a nice boost and uniqueness. These skill trees give you access to new attacks, passives, increased effectiveness of other skills, and flat stat increases if you want to boost something in particular up. While I love this change from the original games, it does come with a downside, is that depending on the difficulty you're playing at, suboptimally leveling up your characters and just choosing cool things can really be a detriment to your playing experience. Like, choosing the ability to have your rogue shove their fist up some goblin's butt to find some extra money hiding somewhere, or having your rogue learn how to unlock master level chests, only to find unimpressive loot that crappy enemies also drop. Please plan your level ups in advance, because some other RPGs using skill trees, here's usually an optimal build, but the other builds work just fine as long as you're not playing super legendary difficulty or fighting some super secret boss of doom. You can technically use mercenary tokens to reset skills if you accidentally make the worst hero ever, but there are very few of them in the entire game. Or I guess you could play on an easier difficulty so you don't have to really worry about it, but then how do you earn bragging rights? Well, anyway, you have your skills, but before we get into combat, let's discuss equipment and mastery slots. Equipment I like considerably better than the trilogy. While I'm sure in the trilogy you find better, more interesting loot much later on, this feels more like a traditional RPG, where you slowly find better and better equipment as you go throughout the game, even finding cool legendary weapons that have a whole puzzle mechanic behind them to unlock their potential. A sad downside is that it does feel bad to find some really good loot, only to find out you need to spend a few skill points in the defense tree to allow your wizard to put on some fancier robes than they currently wear, or even learn how to put on shoes. After all, only true masters know how to put on fancy slippers. All your characters also have a utility slot that can be used to equip them with potions, mugs, fancy equipment, or even bombs. For the last bit before combat, let's talk about mastery slots. This is a mechanic I do not like, but let's discuss it first. Mastery slots are 4 slots where you equip those skills you earn from your level ups. So if you learned how to bonk really hard with your shillelagh, you put that skill there. You're a rogue with a stealth ability to hide yourself for some sneak attacks? Also a mastery slot taken up. What about a caster with various different spells or songs you learned? Each one takes an individual mastery slot. Each character only gets 4 of these. So you have to decide what skills you really want to take into battle and just forget the rest. Now, as I said, I really don't like this mechanic. It limits heavily what your characters can do. It may be a balancing thing, but the problem is they already have combat balance in a different way. Maybe it's to limit the amount of icons or options during combat because it would get messy otherwise. Or it could be their game may not be able to handle it, but we can get to that later. Alright, equipment is on, skills are set, and the bard is already drunk. Fantastic. Combat starts when either you charge the enemy, which makes your side go first, or if the enemy discovers you, which then they go first. Characters are placed into individual slots on a 4x2 grid on their side of the field. Your party spots are decided prior to combat using the menu set up here. The enemy tends to be semi-random depending on who initiated combat or who discovered you. Not 100% sure on this one because it could be random and I was just getting lucky with my experimentation. Meh. As you can see, you have 4 frontline and 4 backline slots like the original Bard's Tale trilogy. However, unlike other RPGs and the trilogy, combat actions are limited by a resource called opportunities, which refresh at the start of every turn, and you get more of them based on skill trees your party has or your progress of the main story. So unlike the original games where you queue up all your attacks or other RPGs where each character has an individual turn, you select your different party members to make them do actions that can cause certain amount of opportunity. So you can select your fighter to taunt somebody to the front line and then have your rogue stab them. Some actions do not require opportunities for you to activate them. Most spells and songs require a resource called spell points to cast rather than opportunities, meaning spellcasters can be very powerful and can push your action economy to give you an edge in battles. There's no chance of missing, assuming no ability or effect is an effect, and you can see how much damage you will do with every attack. With attacks having various ranges and effects, the combat becomes a game of chess to position everyone so they can be as effective as possible. So no longer the randomness of this game's predecessors, and enemies also follow the same rules that you do. So no more of that they get to break the rules whenever they feel like it bullshit. I felt this was a unique combat system that rewarded players to think before they start pressing buttons, and makes this game stand out. Which leads it to make fights interesting as different types types of enemies can require you to play differently and use different skills and positioning depending on your foe. However, combat does show some issues the game has. One, you can remember I mentioned that building suboptimally in your skill trees can be a bad to the point causing some major headache. Now, I did play on the hard difficulty, so I expected some challenge in fights. However, combat scaling can be all over the place at times. That sometimes feels unfair, as in enemies you fight along the storyline can go from easy jumps to, oh god, that goblin just one-shot my guy. Not to mention, enemies have considerably more health than you do as the game progresses. Like, why the heck do these wizards have double or triple the health in some of their beefy frontline, and 5 times more than my wizard? See, the game has no normal autosave or checkpoints if you die. Saving the game, you have to come to these fancy pillars that heal you as it saves the game, which you can only do once on most, and multiple times on select pillars, which means dying can be very time consuming as you will try to get back where you left off. Granted, there is a game option to let you save at any time. You have to set it up at the start of a new game, so maybe consider turning that on. The game does have a metric system before every fight to warn you how dangerous the fight will be against your current party, but it's not always honest, as they tend to be a bit harder than it says, so be careful. Try to fully heal your party after every fight to avoid sadness, and also maybe play on normal rather than hard until you figure out your flow. As a note, you can change the difficulty at any time with the pause menu, so that is nice. The second major issue is the game sometimes struggles with combat quite a bit. You'll be in a fight and tell your rogue to stab someone, and it'll take a whole minute before the game realizes you told it to do something. Sometimes buffs and debuff icons will stay on your character longer than they should, or stack up constantly after every fight, but are not actually activated. Plus some other smaller bugs all around the UI during fights. Sometimes skills forget to work correctly, such as the disguise mechanic that lets you switch places with a unit on your side will go on a cooldown, but no switch happens. These bugs are not usually anything majorly game-breaking or fight-impactful for the most part. However, it does constantly happen in most fights. I'm running a decent PC for 2022, so it can be a bit annoying or just frustrating after a couple of hours of gameplay. Luckily, the overworld seems to be in general safe from these bugs. Speaking of the overworld, it looks good. People are a bit ugly, but similar to Elder Scrolls Oblivion, where I didn't hate it, but found it more humorous than anything. Places are filled to the brim with little nods to the trilogy and old characters. Also a crap ton of puzzles. Yeah, this game's other major element is its puzzles. You will find yourself constantly moving blocks, reading documents to find a thing, avoiding traps, working with a moon shard, and playing certain songs in areas to find more loots and secrets. Puzzles play a very important role to break up the combat, and so far, it feels like a good balance of the two. The puzzles are not too difficult and are a pleasant distraction. The only problem I had with puzzles was, if you're like me, when you go around sniffing every corner of the map for loot, you like to feel rewarded shaking down the entire fortress. However, I found that most of the loot I got was very minimal. Congratulations for finding this secret hallway with a flamethrower trap. Here are a handful of coins. And have fun walking back through that fire again. Yay. Very few times did I feel happy about what I found. Like, if I found more crafting ingredients so I could use the crafting system more often to help make more food and potions, that would even placate me. However, it was usually really bad armor or weapons that are not worth a lot of coins or just a handful of coins. I can only recall once in my playtime where I found something noteworthy, which was a circlet that had some amazing stats at the time. I have a little bit more to say about puzzles, but I'll cover it around the end of the review. Alright, now to quickfire some smaller things that I noticed. Side quests are available, but they're kind of weird, as you get a bunch at the start, but you won't be able to do anything about them for quite a bit, as they're all over the place in levels and areas of which you don't have access to for a while. As I said before, combat scaling is all over the place regardless of difficulty, and you can find super powered enemies everywhere, so be careful where you step. The RPG element of interacting with characters is a lot more than its predecessor, with plenty of people to talk to about how things suck and how things were. Also, a lot of talk about the legendary heroes of the previous game and their deeds. Honestly, the story as a whole involves a lot of the previous stories, but you don't need to play the other three to follow along. Everyone is going to talk about the tale anyways. Another great thing they did to prevent tediousness was when a character dies in battle, they come back to life if you win the fight, with a small bit of hell. It's a small thing, but it's such a night and day feeling compared to the trilogy. Not to mention, when a simple goblin can one-shot your dudes, it's nice that I can heal them up later. I have mentioned crafting. It's mostly used to make potions and food to keep your party hardy and effective. You can learn new recipes throughout the game. Shopkeepers sell recipes for food and alcohol all around. You have skill trees that give you recipes for things as well. You can also craft some adventuring supplies to make lockpicks and grappling hooks. It's a nice, simple, and clean system. Just not much to talk about in my experience playing. However, I did appreciate it. Now, I'll be trying something a little different about how I do a final review on games. Tell me how you feel. So, did I enjoy Bard's Tale 4? Overall? Yeah. Do I think it's an improvement over its legacy? Absolutely yes. Man, this game felt like a fresh air for the series. It doesn't feel like your standard RPG and makes itself stand out with its combat system and music. I'm not head over heels for it, but I think it's decent. The story does feel a bit draggy and it has quite a bit of problems in almost every aspect. However, I felt the overall experience was good enough that I enjoyed myself considerably more than I felt being bored or frustrated than I was with the trilogy. With 16 hours of current playtime, do I think it's worth its $35 to $50 price tag depending if you get the standard or deluxe version? Absolutely. Now, to clarify, I have not completed the game yet. However, looking at the general playtimes of 50 hours and up, and seeing what it has to offer so far, if you like what you see, you're gonna get plenty of it. But don't take my word for it. Let's take a look at other fellow reviewers to see how they felt. Steam generally has a mostly positive stance on the game, so we're gonna peek at a few reviews to see what I agree and disagree with. Overall, the pause reviews talk about the game being a fresh take in RPG genre, and also voice acting and music are really good, which I can agree with. My opinion is, I'm not taken very away with the story, but I think it's serviceable enough to enjoy. Now, something both the negative and positive reviews cover is something I didn't fully encounter in my limited playthrough. Bard's Tale 4 is very much more of a puzzle game than a dungeon crawler. It seems the balance of puzzles and combat begin to fall out further you go in. However, if you're not one to enjoy puzzles or you get stuck often, the game does have a built-in feature to let you skip puzzles whenever you want. So if you just want to skip through an area's puzzles, you have that option. Now, both Dogtown and Score here, reviews came out negative, and I honestly can understand where they're coming from. Items and inventory is kind of boring with the lack of good loot, at least in the first half. Not including the puzzle weapons. Those are still cool. It can be a little upsetting considering you need to equip quite a few party members. I also agree with Score that the limitations on available skills in combat are upsetting and the lack of action economy kind of feels bad sometimes. However, I disagree on the magic caster note. If you have casters that naturally charge, for the most part, their points, they can be powerhouses, as they don't require opportunity to cast most spells. Also, the bard does have a skill tree line to give everyone spell points, which can be used to boost your casters. A lack of spells due to mastery slots does still feel bad. Reading through more of these reviews, it seems the biggest thing to talk about is that the puzzles are a bigger part of the game than one may think, so keep that in mind. However, it does have a mostly positive rating, and I also enjoyed it. So if you have an open mind and want to try something different in the genre, maybe give Bard's Tale 4 a try. Seriously, why the heck is rotten food so expensive? Hope you guys enjoyed the review. I feel weird posting a review on a game I didn't complete or reach a point I'm absolutely done with the game. I do plan on playing more, so hopefully my opinion won't change. Next week, I do not have a game planned, as we are gearing up for Steam's Next Fest, where I'm going to grab a bunch of demos and see what exciting games are coming. So until then, please, enjoy the archives. Quick shout out to Classic Game Sessions. While I was making this video, I actually noticed a video was recommended to me, and it was the evolution of the Bard's Tale intro and music. And I'm talking about from the original games to Bard's Tale 4 and seeing how it changed. If that sounds cool to you, check it out in the description below.